G'day, welcome back. Now for those that have seen some of my previous videos, I'm just sharing some experiences I've had with this car. I've owned it for now about 4 months, and we brought it as a family fun car. It's a spare car for us, and we absolutely love it. I think it's a fabulous wee car. It's got a few problems that I've fixed all around the car, and these set of videos is just about sharing these little fixes with everyone out there. And this one I think is quite a good one, because I know a lot of people strike this and they really don't know how to fix it or get into it. So this is about how to get into the boot when you've been locked out. Now when I say lock out is I had the problem where I went to operate my roof one day and it stopped part way through the operation. I then needed to try and diagnose the fault. So the first thing you've got to do is try and open your boot. So you go around to the back of your boot, try and open it, and it's locked because the two C-locks at the top of the boot lid here during that first phase of the roof operation will lock. Regardless of whether you can get into the back of the car and pull your emergency boot release, it won't work because the locks are in place. I've come up with a solution, and this takes me all of 5 minutes to get into the boot now. There is going to be another separate video I'm going to do on top of this, to add a little modification to the C-locks on the top of the boot lid there, so that if your roof does fail in the future, or my roof does fail, I can quickly just release them very easily. So that's another video on top of that, so watch out for that one. So let's get into it and I'll show you through it. Okay, so to try and explain it a little bit better, the boot first, and I'll go through a few things. The first problem you will have is there's obviously limited space in your boot. You've got a tiny wee ski hatch you've got to try and get through here. You've got to move the cover here out of the way. You've got to get at these two C-locks. There's one on either side. So the first phase of a roof operation, it will close these C-locks and lock your boot lid shut. Regardless of whether your emergency boot release cable works or not, it'll release the latch, but it won't release these here. So you need to undo these. Good thing is that these covers here just pop off. They're really easy to get off. So if you've got a small person, a child, and they're able to fit through the ski hatch, that'll solve your problem straight away if you can show them what to do. So they just pull those covers off, and these are just spring loaded. But if you haven't got access to a child or a small person in order to get close enough to here, what you've got to do is work out a way of getting to these latches and pulling them open. Okay, what I found worked really well was I took a fishing rod, one of the two-piece ones, I took the end off it, and that gives me the reach I needed in the boot and the flexibility. The other part of what I used was I found some bell wire and 2 strands up here, and it's solid core, and I just run the 2 strands together and I put a loop in the end. Now solid core is important so that you can bend it and it'll stay in the shape that you want it. And then what I did was feed it down the end of the fishing rod, and then it gives me the reach and the wee hook on the end so I can hook the C-lock. Let's jump in the boot and show you. Okay, so we're ready to go fishing, and obviously I've prepared this a little bit, and for the purposes of trying to show you the video, I've currently got the boot open, but one of the big problems you'll have is the rear divider that sits in here. Now you've got to try and work that off both the hinges up here and pull it sideways. Very difficult to show you on a video on how I did that, but it was quite tricky, and it's a tight space, but you've just got to sort of swing it around within your enclosed boot and put it over to one side as much as you can so you can reach over into the corner and see what you're trying to do. But as you can see, I'm not the smallest person in the world, but I can, if I squeeze myself around a little bit, there's enough room there for me to stick my head through and one arm. And that's enough, using a fishing rod end, like I am here now, to reach over to where I need to be. And line of sight's only just able to do it. As I say, if you've got the V6 one, you've got 2 batteries sitting here, so I'm not sure how that's going to work with the V6 one, but that's not the problem I had. So anyway, let's give this a go from here. the first thing you got to do, and I've prepped this a little bit, is pull the cover off. And then you've got to feed your wire over the hook somehow. This is where it gets tricky, and you've got to fashion and shape the wire a little bit so that it goes over the top. So there's a wee bit of work to manipulate that, curve your wire, and that's why you're using a solid core to try and get over it. As I say, if you've got a small child can get through the ski hatch, then you're part way there. But this is still pretty quick. There you go. So I'm across the top of that now, and as long as you keep it taut, I'm going to remove the fishing rod, because that just gets in the way now. If I get far enough in, I can get my arm and pull it around like that. And there you go, that's released. You do that with both sides. Then you just pull the boot release. Okay, so the boot's open now, but I just want to demonstrate how easy these are. So these are just, once this is in the closed position, they're very easy to push back. So as I say, if you've got a small child, they can actually get their fingers in here and push that back. But the beauty of using this wire, and the thickness of this wire was just about perfect. When I rolled it over the top and got it and pulled it that way, so if I pull in that direction, it's not going to fully open the C-lock. What you've actually got to do is roll it round and down. So, and this is where the thickness of the wire was perfect. So when I rolled it round and down, the wire actually ran, I need to use a bit of force here, the wire actually runs between the bodywork and the C-lock, and it actually locked it in place as I rolled it round. So that worked, it was quite beneficial having that wire. So that held it in place. As I say, you've got to have both sides done, and then you can operate your emergency boot release and then lift your boot lid open. And it's really as simple as that. And that didn't take long at all. Okay, so that's it for this, this video. I'm sure that's going to be helpful for a lot of people out there. It'll save you a lot of money, do it yourself, because the dealers, I know, they don't have some magic fix for how to get into the boot. Quite often they scratch their heads as well, and they're spending your money to try and fish around, and it might be something else for them to get the boot open. So it's certainly something you can do yourself. So give it a go.